I can get this to here. First thing I want to talk about is honorable mentions for, or the honorable mention for my top 10 movies from 2008. And the reason I'm putting this movie in, Twilight, and I'll probably get some comments here for that particular inclusion. But the reason I'm including Twilight is two reasons. One, because my wife would kill me if I mentioned 2008 and didn't bring up Twilight, because that's like her favorite movie. And two, if you heard me talk at all, you know that my son's name is EJ, and that EJ is Edward Jacobs. So my son is literally named after this movie. And because of that, I have to include Twilight in this list of 2008 movies, because I would probably get kicked out of my own house if I didn't include it. So there's that. Honestly, Twilight, it's not one of my favorite movies all time, but I do understand the following that it had. I understand the pop culture significance of that movie, and the books were huge. I mean, so this movie absolutely was a big impact of the year 2008, one of the big box office draws. And again, my wife loves this movie, so I had to include it on this list. Here it is, Twilight. Next up, I want to bring up Hancock. And this is one that enough people don't talk about. Will Smith, Charlize Theron, and I think we're fixing to have some company here, guys, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Will Smith, Charlize Theron. This was a superhero movie before we had what we have today in superhero movies. It was big, but it wasn't as big as it could have been, because it just didn't have that audience. But I thought this is a phenomenal movie. It's one of the more underrated movies, I feel like, from 2008, because none of people still talk about this movie today from when it came out. And it had some very strong emotional parts to this movie with Will, with Charlize toward the end of the movie, and you find out the dynamic between them, what was really going on with them. Fantastic film, in my opinion, and one of the things I had the most fun with in 2008. All right. So that's my number 10. I'm going to move on to number 9, and that is Wanted. I don't know how many of you guys saw this movie. Whoops. There we go. I don't know how many of you guys saw this movie. This was Angelina Jolie. This was one of the first times we saw Professor X. Why did my mind just go blank? Well, anyway, this is one of the first times we saw him in a movie as well. We had Morgan Freeman in this one. Overall, just a fantastic movie. This is where we got the curve the bullets, that sort of thing. I remember going with a friend of mine from high school to watch this one. Had a lot of fun with Wanted. All right. Next up, just to keep going with my top 10 from 2008 before I just go into a generalization of the movies from 08. I think, boy, this is tougher to navigate than I thought it was going to be doing this. Can't do it both at the same time. All right. Kung Fu Panda. I don't know how many of you guys were big fans of Kung Fu Panda. We got to see Jack Black do some voice acting in this, and it was fantastic. One of the best animated movies of that year, even though there were several animated movies that come out in 2008. This was one of the best ones. Jack Black absolutely killed it in this role, spinning off to a bunch of sequels. If you have seen those movies. Oh, we got something going on. Hey, I'm fixing to surprise you guys here, if it's very much of a surprise. And I'm going to take this off for just a moment and bring on a friend. Welcome, Ken. What's going on?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. Through the 2008 movies right now. Yeah, you got some flashing lights going, it looks like.
It's funny because the lights that are actually in this room are not flashing. So I don't know what's going on with the screen.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, Alexa, light off. All right, so yeah, we got some poltergeist stuff here. I think that the devil is mad that I gave Exorcist Believer a bad review. So
it may be.
Hey, Mama Minute.
Hey, what's going
Yeah,
on, Mama Minutes? Yeah, that could be the case. I'm not sure. Yeah, I've
yeah.
just been we've gotten started talking about the 2008 movies. As you can tell, my camera went out again on me. I don't know what's going on with that. I tried to bring up the screen share, and as soon as I did, my camera went out. So I had to switch back to a webcam. I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with that. But
So here's the funny thing: all the
uh
lights in my room are off.
huh.
So we got some real poltergeist stuff going on here, and I'm sorry to
Interesting.
bring uh the angel of light to your
Yeah, you have to
stream.
quit playing with those Ouija boards, Ken.
I mean, I keep telling people to stop summoning stuff. I think it might have been my neighbors.
I'm doing it
I'm
to you.
not sure.
Yeah. So yeah, to get back what I was talking about here, if you don't mind real quick.
Sure, sure.
Well, I mean before we do you have any quick thoughts you wanted to bring up about 2008 and the movies from that year before I continue on here?
Well, yeah, it seems like 2008 was just as much a formative year for me for movies and my love of movies as was 1994. And we've discussed that at nauseum. But Iron Man and Dark Knight and
Yeah.
Kung Fu Panda is I don't even know if Kung Fu Panda is necessarily underrated, but it's phenomenal. It's a great movie. And not
Yeah.
only is Kung Fu Panda a great movie, it's also a great trilogy. So
Yeah.
we won't get into the sequels because those aren't this year, but
Yeah.
it's one of the few like post millennium turn trilogies that are actually really good. I'd also add like the Planet of the Apes that happened past the turn of the century to that as well, and the Star Trek movies,
Mm,
the Star Trek Into Darkness and Beyond. I also thought was a really good solid trilogy. So Kung
yeah.
Fu Panda was definitely one of those for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So far I don't know how much you've caught on with what we've mentioned
Yeah,
so far yet in
the
here.
first one was Wanted, right?
Well, I talked about Twilight.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I
Hancock.
said I had to bring up Twilight because both my wife, it's one of her favorite things in the world,
Mhm.
and we named my son Edward Jacob, so I had to
Okay,
bring up Twilight. Hancock
nice.
was one I brought up, and Wanted I brought up right before Kung Fu Panda. So those are the ones I've brought up so far from that year. And of course, I'm just putting up like 10 movies that influenced me
Mhm.
that year. I've got I've got a list here. I'm going to read off in a little bit of some of the movies that come out that year, and there's like
Yeah,
40 movies on this list, like that were movies
that
that I
makes
thought
sense.
were huge. So uh,
Yeah, yeah, so I'll stand by. I'm gonna figure out, what's going on with this poltergeist in my room.
okay,
But yeah, but I'm here for you.
okay, I got you, I got you, I got you. So I'm gonna bring up the next movie now. Talked a little bit about Kung Fu Panda. Let me see. I'm gonna bring this back up here and go to the next one, which is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I love this comedy. Uh, Jason Segel, uh, uh, Russell Brand, Mila Kunis, however you pronounce her name. Uh, wow, I'm not doing good with names tonight. Kristen Bell. So there we go. Because that
I've
2008 we had Christian Bale and Kristen Bell both making big movies. So,
Yeah, yeah, the Bale and Bell connection.
um, but yeah, this was an extremely funny movie. I had a lot of fun with this one. Um, it really put like to me Russell Brand on the radar because I didn't know much of his stuff before this, and I just had a blast with this movie. Did you watch Forgetting Sarah
I
Marshall, Ken?
I gotta tell you, I've never seen it.
Never saw it. Okay, and a few
Yeah.
years later, they had that spinoff, Get Them to the Greek, that come after this.
Oh, was that?
And
I didn't know those were connected.
yes, yeah, Jonah Hill was in this one as well, and then of course Jonah and Russell went off to do that movie together after this. So,
Oh, nice.
um,
Yeah, sorry
well,
for the rustling. I'm
you're
grabbing
good. You're good.
from Wild
So
Wild.
yeah, this was one of the big comedies that year. Not the biggest comedy that year. We've got a couple others to talk about here in a minute, but that was one of the big comedies from that year. Really funny. If you guys never watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I highly recommend it. This is one I watch at least every 2 or 3 years myself as on a rewatch. So, all right, next up, I want to bring up Wally.
Wow.
This was Disney's one of Disney's big releases for this year. Of course, we've got kind of futuristic type movie. He's
Mhm.
cleaning up Earth after Earth has just been destroyed by humans, in all honesty, and we see the couch potatoes.
Hey,
And
it's
what
representation.
humanity has become in this movie. A lot of this movie, what I really love about the Wall-E movie, so much of, especially the first third to half of this movie, is told without any talking. I mean, it is all just noise, like you hear the robot noises, and you
Yeah.
have the environmental. And I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. If you guys watched my recent Fox and the Hound review, I talked about how much of that movie, because there was a lot of dialogue in that movie, but a lot of it also was told with just the score and the visualization of the characters and stuff. And I love that kind of thing in a movie. So Wall-E was definitely one of those that did that for me on that.
Yeah, Wall-E was great, man. Wall-E's one of my favorite. I was about to say Netflix, Pixar movies. I was about to say Disney, Netflix. No, Disney Pixar movies come out. Exactly what you mentioned in terms of the pretty much no dialogue until they get on the ship.
Yeah,
I used to annoy the hell, because 2008 was the year I went into college. I used to absolutely annoy the hell out of my roommate, because I would just say "Wally" like all the time. It was like my catchphrase.
That's pretty good
at one point. So, and then one of my other friends would respond "Eva," and then we were crazy in college.
That's great. I like it.
We were crazy. Yeah, that was great.
All right, and we're going to go from that one to another one that is influential to me that may not be to some of you, and that is Mamma Mia. Mamma Mia came out in 2008. I am a huge sucker for movie musicals, and I'm also a huge sucker for Meryl Streep.
She's the GOAT.
She is fantastic, and she is at her best in this movie, in my opinion. Love Meryl Streep in this. Skarsgård, I believe, was in this movie as well. Pierce Brosnan, such a great cast. Amanda Seyfried, so good, and our young Howard Stark was in this movie as well as Seyfried's love interest. So that was a lot of fun as well. Cooper, what is his name? Well, I shouldn't have tried to think of it. Anyway, great musical in a world where we get a lot of musicals nowadays. In fact, we'll talk about one from the box office here after a while, or I will, that hit this weekend in limited theaters. It didn't really make just a ton of money, even though
I wouldn't expect that it would have.
No. And I mean, it's A24, and it did open in very few theaters, but we'll get to that after a while. But yeah, in a day where we get a lot of musicals, it seems like nowadays, Mamma Mia come in 2008, and it was like, oh, I love this movie. And maybe I shouldn't have as a guy. I don't know. I think it's okay.
What did you just say?
I got my dad talking through me right now, because he used to make fun of me for watching this stuff. But I love musicals.
I didn't like the Barbie movie in particular, but I was dressed in pink, and I went to go enjoy that movie.
Hey, I had fun with that one too. I had my pink shorts on, my bright blue shirt.
Yeah.
I did that.
You like what you like. Enjoy what you enjoy.
Let's Mamma Mia. Did you watch Mamma Mia, Ken?
I gotta say, I haven't seen this one either.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to it or any musicals like that, because I do like musicals. Sweeney Todd is probably my favorite one.
I love Sweeney Todd. That's good. All right. I'm gonna move on to my next movie, Tropic Thunder.
Hey, now this is a film.
So Tropic Thunder, it really was one of the two movies that year that put Robert Downey Jr. back on the map, but it also kind of saved Tom Cruise's career in a way.
Isn't that so weird?
Because he was able to be so vulnerable in a role in this movie, do something he'd never done outside of his wheelhouse, and I think people took note of it. The studios took note of it. It's like, hey, this is a guy that will work with you on something, because what Tom Cruise did as a side character in this movie was absolutely golden.
But he had the problem that The Rock has now, which is he's just typecast and everything. The Rock is The Rock in everything he's in, no matter what the character on the script's name is. It's The Rock, and Tom Cruise doing that really elevated him out of action star. Of course, he did a lot of great dramas, but he got into Mission Impossible guy for a while. So this really did help his career.
I agree, and just the overall cast in this movie too. The Ben Stiller, Jack Black, Robert Downey Jr.,
Yeah,
and all the other side guys that were in this as well. It was phenomenal. Matthew McConaughey even made appearance in
yeah,
this. You know,
yeah. He was in this too. Let me tell you,
uh,
Lincoln Osiris is one of my all-time favorite characters.
okay,
I quote him every so often. Um, what? Oh, yo, I love gonna call up some of them greens, get some crawfish at the patio, getting some
uh,
crab apple for dessert now.
yep.
Yeah, hell yeah. Ha!
It's like I always hear people say, "Oh, they couldn't make this movie, or Downey Jr. couldn't play this role again nowadays." I'm like, no, no, no. He can still
No,
do this. This
yeah.
is fine.
The genius
It's
of
too
it
much
was
fun.
having an actual black man on the cast to call out the foolishness
Yes,
of
yes.
the overdoing of method acting, which Jared Leto clearly didn't get that message. But yeah, it was genius, man. I really love that
Yeah,
movie.
I agree. So Tropic Thunder is one of those, and I know my mom is probably in those comments talking about how stupid this is. I'm sure. I'm not looking at the comments yet until I'm done with this because I don't want to be affected by that yet. So,
Mhm.
but anyway, I'm gonna move on to the next movie here, and that is the other Robert Downey Jr. movie, Iron Man.
Hey, this is
Now,
the one.
a lot of y'all probably putting this at number one because of what it did, and that is kickstart the MCU.
Yep.
Uh, I've got it a little further back just because there was a couple other movies that just meant more to me personally than
Hmm.
what this one did, and that's
And
that's
that's
why
all
it's
that
at three.
counts.
But I mean, hey, number three for me for 2008 with all the movies that come out that year. That's pretty high standard for me, in
Absolutely.
my opinion. So, but yeah, this is what kickstarted MCU. This is why we have the movies we have today, is because Jon Favreau directed a movie with Robert Downey Jr. that
Yep.
nobody saw coming as a when this was announced, nobody saw what was going to come
Yeah.
uh, from this
Do
when
yep.
we getting ready to go see it and stuff. I mean, it just wasn't.
I was 18 years old. I was going to
Yeah,
college. I don't even know if I knew that this movie was coming out when it came out. So when
I
I
was
finally did see it, I loved it, of course.
right.
But I think I actually saw this movie. I really feel like I've seen this movie closer to around when Iron Man, no, not Iron Man 2, but when the Hulk came out.
So
Because
that was only like a month later.
yeah, yeah, which is crazy, right?
Yeah,
Both of those movies
month
came
to two
out
months later.
within a month of each other.
Yeah,
One of them was great.
yeah.
One of them wasn't.
So well, I don't hate the Incredible Hulk. I'm going to say that. Like, I don't think it's a bad movie. I'm sorry. I think it's fun. Edward Norton was not as bad in that as a lot of people tell me he is, but
He wasn't bad.
uh,
The movie was, but
uh,
he wasn't.
and some of the action, like compared to, so I'm looking at it as I'm going into this and I'm seeing the Incredible Hulk, and I know we're getting off the Iron Man, but Hulk come
Mhm.
out this same year too. So,
Yeah.
uh, and I'm going into this and I'm thinking, well, we got a really bad Hulk just a few years ago with Eric Bana called The Hulk with Sam Elliott playing General
Mhm.
Ross and stuff. Or, yeah. So going into this and getting this movie, I'm like, well, at least it was better than that. You know, that was my thought
Right.
process at that time. So maybe that affected my
You know what's funny
liking of
about that?
the movie.
I think I was in the minority when that Hulk movie came out of really liking it.
Oh,
I
really? Of the
loved that movie.
hmm.
And I didn't find out that other people didn't like that movie until later. I was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, you remember the Eric Bana Hulk, the one with the screen would turn into like a comic book strip, just like the comic books.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't that cool?" And then he fought his cloud dad, and in that scene where
Yeah.
he fights the dogs, it was amazing. And everybody was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "The Hulk." It was like
Yeah,
that
Nick
movie is
Nolte was the villain in that
terrible.
one too, right?
Who?
Nick
Nick Nolte.
Nolte was the
Yeah,
villain. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, old gravel voice.
yeah,
Yeah, he was
yeah.
that
Well,
movie.
see that
Oh yeah, but
I did not have a a great time with that one. So when I got
yeah,
to
I
Incredible
must
Hulk, I
mention
was in.
that I went back and watched it, and I was like, ooh, I don't
I
know.
got you.
Maybe my taste matured a little bit, but yeah,
Hey,
that was not
that
it.
happens. That happens.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Just
used to think I liked Master of Disguise, you know, and
mm. Oh my gosh. So back in the day when we had VHSs, that was one of the previews on the VHS before a movie, and I don't remember what movie it was, but it was a movie I watched damn
Mm.
near every day. I watched that movie. I watched that trailer more than I don't even think I've seen the full movie. But I thought that movie was great because the trailer was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard that is
Yeah.
not great. I just wanted to be in the Turtle Club.
Exactly.
Isn't that turtle enough for the Turtle Club?
Turtle. Yeah. So, but back on track a little bit here. Iron Man. I too, I didn't watch it when it came out because honestly, when I was looking at this movie, I thought of it as, oh, this is a B character, Marvel character. Because to me, Iron Man wasn't like top tier to me when I read comics and stuff. Like he just wasn't that to me. I mean, he was a side character. To me, War Machine was a bigger character in the Spider-Man animated series than Iron Man was. So,
oh yeah, they
had more
use them
time and stuff. And so Iron Man just didn't mean much to me. And I think even the arcade, like you never played as Iron Man in the arcade. You played as Cap.
You
And
played as War Machine.
Yeah, or War Machine. Yeah. So I
Marvel
mean,
vs. Capcom with the gigantic cannon.
Yeah. So Iron Man just wasn't something I was excited about. Hulk is one I wasn't excited about when it came out that summer. So what me and my buddies did, we went to the theaters. 2008, we watched a triple feature that day of Iron Man, Hulk, and Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, Kingdom of Crystal Skull.
Wait, that came out that year?
That came out in 2008 as well.
What?
So that will always be a movie theater experience that I have of watching Iron Man and then slowly digressing as I watched another movie one after another.
Yeah, I can definitely, yeah.
So,
man,
but at the same time, it was a fun day at the theaters with my buddies, you know. So,
for sure.
And that was
sometimes it's not even a movie that's on the screen; it's the people that you're with.
That's the summer between high school and college for me. I was having a lot of fun that summer. We were going to a lot of movies. I mean, triple feature there, double feature with Yes Man and Bedtime Stories, like getting Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler the same day. You know, that was a fun double feature in 2008. Lots of fun to be had that year for me.
Yeah. 2008 was a formative year for sure.
Yeah. And without Iron Man, we wouldn't have the movies we have today, which some people might be happy about, but
yeah,
I don't know. All right, I'm going to move on to my number 2, and I actually cheated here because I've got a couple of comedies, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted to have on my list here, so I just put them both on number 2 because I love these movies so much, and one of them is the one I consider the most underrated movie of 2008, and those are Step Brothers and Yes Man.
Okay,
so Yes Man is the most underrated movie of 2008, in my opinion. It is one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies. Jim Carrey, Zooey Deschanel, Terrence Stamp. Jim Carrey acted his butt off in this movie for both comedic and some seriously serious tones that he got into with this for what the theme of this movie was, and just saying yes to everything and the consequences that come with that or don't come with that. And I felt like this is a movie that told a story in two different directions and that was just misunderstood by so many people because they're like, oh, this is just dumb. And I'm like, no, look at the underlying message. And nobody was getting that from me when I tried to explain that. And then, of course, Step Brothers, at this point, it's like a classic comedy. So
yeah,
you look like you have thoughts.
I have a couple because I'm 50-50 with you right now. Okay. So Yes Man, I do agree, is underrated. It's a really funny movie, and I think one of the things that you mentioned is really important, which is that even in Jim Carrey's comedic films, not every once in a while, but often he pulls out a dramatic performance or a couple dramatic scenes that are like, that dude can act his behind off. And also, I also want to note quickly, because I know I'm long-winded, that comedy is harder than most other forms of acting. I think the only form of acting that's probably more difficult than comedy is probably like musicals, because that I wouldn't even want to touch that. I could try to be funny, but to try to sing and like keep my train of thought, absolutely not.
Yeah.
However, Step Brothers. I watched Step Brothers about 2 years ago for the first time, When I was doing my unseen movie marathon thing, I wasn't a YouTuber. We were stuck in quarantine, so I was just watching a bunch of movies I'd never seen before.
Okay.
Step Brothers ended up being one of them for 2008. I can't stand this movie.
No kidding.
I hate this movie,
Ooh.
and I feel like hate is strong. I dislike this movie. I don't hate it. There are movies I hate. This isn't one of them. I dislike this movie a lot. Here's the reason why. One, I saw it when I was 30, right?
Okay.
So because I saw it when I was 30, and I'm not saying if you see it and you're 30 and you find it funny, that's perfectly fine. Live your life. You know, I'm never about judging what people like. However, I'm watching these two grown Mama Menace is in the chat, so I will not be cursing. I'm watching these two grown behind men act like children, and it's just something that I can't abide by. Because in my mind, the whole time I'm like, yo, if you don't get yourself up out of your mother's house and go figure out what you need to do to be an adult, and so, like that. This is my whole adult brain, like just like looking at these two and just being disgusted by their antics. By the time they get to the boat at the end of the movie and they're doing at the yacht party, I'm ready to rear them like I'm their parent. I'm ready to be the parents in the movie. Like seriously. So yeah, it started out funny. I was laughing. It started out funny. I was laughing, and then I feel like it just went too long without them maturing. You know what I mean? Because there's a very big difference between what Step Brothers does and what Dumb and Dumber does. Like there's two different kinds of lack of awareness, I'll call it.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber can't help themselves.
Yeah, they're just they are who they are.
Yeah,
these two, I can't. So yeah.
So the reason I think that I still laugh at this movie and why it still works for me every time I watch it, because I watch this movie, I don't know how many times I've watched it, but I've watched it several times over the years, and whenever I see it or think about it, I'll put it on and watch it. This movie, not only do I quote probably second most to Anchorman, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Anchorman is the greatest movie of all time. I don't know if I believe that, but I feel like it right now.
Anchorman is so good, and it's a very different movie from Will Ferrell than Step Brothers, even though it's Anchorman, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, all incredible comedies on their own merit, and they're all very different. Yeah, even though they're Will Ferrell. But and I feel like that's the Will Ferrell trinity. I don't know, and then you put Elf somewhere back and forth on there.
I've never seen Elf. I want to.
Man.
I want to.
You do need to see
kill
Elf.
Me.
We're gonna have to do like a Christmas watch along with you on Elf or something.
I would love to.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Let's set that up for December. Yeah. But the thing with Step Brothers is, and I'm hoping none of them are watching. We only got 3 people watching. Surely none of them are right now. I mean, I have friends that are these guys. I still have friends that are these guys, and I watched this movie, and even 2-3 years ago, I'm watching. I'm like, yeah, that's so and so. Like, yeah, that's so and so. And I'm like, if their parents were to get together, this is exactly what would happen. And I think that's part of why I like this, just because I'm like picturing people in my life that fit these characters, and I'm just like, yep, oh man, So so I think that's part of why that resonates with me still, even after I've gotten older, because I can relate it to something.
No, I totally understand. Yeah, and like I said, I don't try to yuck anybody's yum. If you love it, I love it for you. There are some funny moments in the film, and then it just lasts about a half hour longer than it should. Before it even gets to like a modicum of maturing or resolution. So that's why, because typically in movies like this, they start off this way, and then at some point they turn the corner. I don't even remember if they ever turned the corner. I feel like they turned the corner like in the last second of the last moment.
Yeah, like right at the end.
Yeah.
And even then, you're like, I mean, kinda. So yeah, I totally understand that.
What was the Adam Sandler movie where he was taking care of that kid?
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. That's an example of what I mean. Where it's like, okay, at some point they turned the corner. I was like, got it. It's awesome.
Figured it out.
Yeah.
These guys are still children even after they're grown up. After they, even when they finally grow up, they're still acting like children. Yeah. All right, I'm going to do one more on these, and then I'll just go
Sure.
through a list of the other things that came out that year, get a couple final thoughts on that, and then I'm going to jump over to comments.
Okay, sounds
And
great.
you feel free to stay as long as you want, chat with
Mhm.
the comments with us if you want, or if you need to go to do something, that's perfectly fine. I ain't trying to hold you to it. I appreciate you
Yeah,
jumping in with me. So
no problem. You
I
let me know.
definitely already feel more comfortable once you got here than what I was stumbling around before. It was a mess getting started
Nah,
today
but
for
I
some
got you
reason.
back
So
at all times. I got you back.
I appreciate you. All right, so
I'm
this
watching the
last one.
Cowboys lose, so I'm having a good time.
All right. And I think everybody knew where this one was going. For the final movie I want to talk about here, The Dark Knight.
Yes.
Up until recently, this was my favorite Batman movie, and some days it still is. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and not only that, this is like a top 5, if not a top 3 DC, or comic book movie for me. Just because I love what this did for me in 2008, because I'd seen some great comic book movies up before this. I got to this and I'm like, dang, this could win Oscars, and I
Yeah.
never really felt that way about comic book movies before Dark Knight got here. So that's kind of my thought on that. I remember going to theaters to this and I was just like, wow, that opening
Yeah.
scene before we even see Batman, just that
Mm-hmm.
opening scene, the bank heist there, and that kind of stuff. I was just like, this is another level for a comic book movie.
Yeah. So what's interesting for me about this, and I agree with you. This is the Rogue One, Empire
Mm,
Strikes Back thing for me, where they're both tied. They're both
okay.
very different, but they're both so good that I just like the Batman is what we're talking about, as the other one, and
Yeah.
because I love that movie too.
That's what I'm referring to in case nobody
Yeah,
caught on to that.
yeah. So this movie, I had actually an interesting relationship with this movie too, because I feel like I was one of the few people who did not like Batman Begins. I couldn't
Hmm.
stand. I did not like it at all. I like the ending train fight, but other than that, I'm sorry, I'm long winded. You know this.
You're good. You're good.
It was just the Scarecrow and the burlap sack for me. I'm like, if I'm going to see Scarecrow on screen for the first time, you got to do better than a suit in a burlap sack. Like, yeah, I just couldn't. I couldn't get over that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but at the end of that movie, when they shows the Joker card, for whatever reason, I was super excited. So when the movie finally comes out, and we're seeing it through social media, because remember when Heath Ledger first was cast, we were like, the guy from that, and honestly I had no idea who he was, so I had to know the guy from that thing. I'm like, oh, I don't know this guy, right? So when I'm watching the movie, I'm in the theater just like you, the bank heist happens, I'm like, this is different.
Yeah.
Okay. He does the smoke thing and leaves. I'm like, huh, okay. I was so skeptical. And then where it turned for me, it didn't even turn for me at the first scene where he not when he kills Gamble. But in the first scene where he introduces himself to the mobsters and he puts the pencil through the guy's
Oh,
head.
show you a
This
magic trick.
is all sounding very, yes,
Yeah.
very violent.
We'll
Where
make
it
this pencil
turned for
disappear.
me was um when he was driving the tractor trailer and it said slaughter on the side, but it was laughter. For what, like, me not knowing that putting an S on laughter spelled slaughter, and then him doing that, my mind exploded, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever!" And then Batman is on the motorcycle, and the wheels on the back and the front spin
Yeah.
sideways, and I'm just like, "What is happening?" Like, it was one of those moments. I was like, "I don't know what I'm watching right now. This is great." And then the trailer flips over, and I'm like, "What is happening?" Like, I was
Yeah.
loving it. So yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite. Like, just thinking about it now, I'm like, I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yeah, so I love this movie. I love, and not only that, not only all of that, DJ,
Hmm.
it did Two-Face so well.
So,
I've never seen Two-Face being done that well in my life. I
yeah.
loved it. Not the acid, but the gasoline and the half the face and then Maggie Gyllenhaal dies, and I'm like, I didn't know you could kill people in superhero movies. Like, it was like, this is great. This is
Yep.
fantastic. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
I absolutely love this movie.
Ended kind of on a dark tone. I
It
mean,
did. It did. He
so
was the bad guy. Yeah. Oh my god, this movie is
I,
great. I love this.
I've had a hot take for a while that a lot of people argue, or people used to look down on me for even saying that I think Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face was even better than Heath Ledger's Joker in this movie. Because of the way his character turned and the way he portrayed that when he did it, when that happened and everything, like I just thought that was a masterful performance by Aaron. I don't think he gets enough credit. Maybe he wasn't better than Heath, but because he gets so little credit for what he did with that Two-Face character,
he's never mentioned.
Right. Nobody brings him up, and I'm like, dude, he was one of the best villains we've ever had in comic books.
Yeah,
because of the way that happened. So,
you want to know the best part about it? I saw the trailers, of course, before the movie. For whatever reason, it never occurred to me that Two-Face was going to be in this movie. Even when I was watching it, like until the thing happened with his face, and then he's, Heath Ledger comes into the hospital with the nursing gown, which was one. I want to know whose idea that was because that was great. I'm like, oh wait, we get two villains in this, and remember that was at the time when putting multiple villains in your sequel was the big thing, but they didn't even announce it as if Two-Face is going to be it. It was just like,
we had Harvey Dent.
Yeah, right. Maybe he'll be in the third one because they're setting it up, or that kind of thing. But the fact that he was in it, and his role in the film is just as important as everyone else's. So I love this movie. I don't know if I agree that his performance was better than Heath's, but I don't blame you for feeling that way. I'm not going to excoriate you about it. However, he was good. He was great. He was fantastic. The writing on that was great. And shout out to Martin Scorsese, who says, we need more directors like Christopher Nolan who aren't doing superhero movies after he made one of the best superhero movies of all time, as well as one of the best superhero movie trilogies of all time. Because I did go back and watch Batman Begins, and I do have a much better appreciation for it now than I did back then.
I actually like it better than Rises.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I don't blame you because Rises. Have you ever noticed that all three of them are very different movies?
Very much so.
Very different.
Yeah.
Like even like the Dark Knight Rises or Dark Knight Batman Begins is a lot slower, a lot darker, not as much humor involved. It's very dreary. The second one is dark, but it's light in some ways, and it's more like, I don't know, it's smarter, if you will. And the third one is just a Batman the Animated Series cartoon come to life.
It's much more comic booky.
It's much more comic booky.
Yeah,
and I like all three of them. All three. Yeah, I like all three of them because they're all so different. You know what I mean? Except the third one does take some liberties. I'm gonna fix your spine by punching it. The guy who was holding him up in the cave when he was thrown down, he's like, spinal surgery. Ha! It was like, okay, he can walk now. So I don't know, but I love Bane. Bane's awesome.
I love Tom Hardy.
He was great.
Before I just read out a bunch of these movies here,
sure.
Do you have anything else that you remember from 2008 that stands out to you that you can add to this 10 list that I've got? Technically 12 list.
While you're reading the list, I'm going to pull up my letterbox.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So these were.
I forgot everything.
These were the movies that I wrote down that come out in 2008, and there are more than these movies. These are just the ones that I caught my eye when I was going through this list because I knew a bunch of them, like the ones I mentioned, and a few others. But these kind of caught my eye. The Dark Knight, Twilight, Saw 5, Iron Man, Tropic Thunder, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, Mamma Mia, Taken was 2008.
Taken was 2008?
Yes.
I never seen it.
Step Brothers, In Bruges, I can't ever pronounce that. Indiana Jones and Kingdom of Crystal Skull.
I can't believe that was 2008.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Kung Fu Panda, Curious Case of Benjamin Button was that year. Cloverfield come out in 2008.
Cloverfield, I love.
The Incredible Hulk, Jumper. That's an underrated movie.
Jumper was fun.
You Don't Mess with the Zohan come out in 2008.
That was a movie that exists.
It is. Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood.
I liked that when I saw it. Yeah.
Wanted, which I brought up. Slumdog Millionaire. The House Bunny with Anna Faris. That was pretty funny. The Hurt Locker.
Okay.
Great movie.
I haven't seen it.
So this is the one that I kind of like. I kind of like this one, superhero movie. For some reason, I laughed a lot in that movie, and I was really impressed or happy that I saw Zach Milne put it on his what's that word again?
Street list.
Well, his list of movies that are, oh my gosh,
Underrated.
Well, yes, but he did a top 10.
I know. I feel like
Guilty pleasure.
Yes.
He had it on his guilty pleasure list, and I'm like, superhero movie for that. That is definitely a guilty pleasure, and I appreciate it. Pineapple Express came out in 2008. Burn After Reading, Milk, Rambo. Talking about when he come back and did Rambo again. Punisher Warzone was 2008. 007 Quantum of Solace was 2008.
That was not good.
The Brendan Fraser Journey to the Center of the Earth. The Sex and the City movie. Another Will Smith movie that I really enjoyed, 7 Pounds.
7 Pounds? I like 7 Pounds. I know everybody's like, oh,
not enough people watch that.
Will Smith. It's the end of Will Smith. But I was like, no, that was good. It wasn't great, but it was good.
But he had 7 Pounds and Hancock come out that year, so I appreciated that. Prince Caspian, the Narnia movie, come out that year. Marley and Me, Horton Hears a Who, the animated feature. Speed Racer come out in 2008.
So I like Speed Racer a lot more than Other Humans.
It was trippy now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
High School Musical 3 come out in 2008. Yes Man, Madagascar 2, 27 Dresses, Get Smart with Steve Carell, Bedtime Stories with Adam Sandler, The Happening, the M. Night Shyamalan film.
Terrifying. Terrifyingly bad. Terrifyingly bad.
The Disney film Bolt.
Never saw it.
Ponyo come out in 2008. Hellboy 2, you mentioned that one.
Hellboy 2 is good.
Camp Rock, for those of y'all that are fans of that. Another underrated movie, Role Models, with Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott. Really funny movie. Jane Lynch was in that as well. Definitely Maybe. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor come out in 2008.
Man, was that disappointing.
Vince Vaughn, Four Christmases, a Christmas movie that he did with Reese Witherspoon, come out in 2008. Harold and Kumar, Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Beverly Hills Chihuahua. Semi-Pro, Australia with Hugh Jackman. 10,000 BC. Drill Bit Taylor. Meet Dave, Eddie Murphy. And two worst movies, I would say, from 2008. The Love Guru with Mike Myers. And the animated The Clone Wars, 2008.
The Love Guru, I didn't see because I heard it was that bad. The Clone Wars, I feel like, was that the one that first introduced Ahsoka?
I believe so. See, that's what I'm trying to remember back, but I think that's the one that had Ahsoka, and it had the kid Jabba the Hutt person.
Oh yeah,
the one.
Yeah. That
if I'm not mixing them up, that's what I'm thinking was 2008 one.
No, that was bad. Now she ended up being dope, and so did the rest of the series. But that in particular, not good at all.
Yeah.
One of the other ones I wanted to mention was Valkyrie with Tom Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember that being good.
That one.
And also there's one I just saw. Well, you mentioned the other one, which was 7 Pounds, which I really liked. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is terrible." I was like, "Oh no, this is actually kind of interesting."
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that.
Madagascar 2, I would burn it. Well, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with the very first Madagascar movie.
Okay.
Similar to the way that people have a problem with Iron Man because of what the MCU turned into. People are like, I have the same issue with Madagascar. I need Madagascar to stop. I need Ice Age to stop. Every day for the rest of my life. I don't want to ever see that squirrel chasing that nut again.
Scrat.
I can't stand it. And there's not a lot of things that I can't stand, but that's one of them. The one that you didn't mention, which I'm not chatting, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Oh, Mickey Rourke.
That was fantastic.
I forgot that one was even that year. I didn't even notice it when I was going through my list. That's another one. That one had some award nominations or wins, didn't it?
I don't know if it won. I
Did
feel
Mickey
like
not win something for that? I don't know if it
I'm
was
not
Oscar,
sure.
but it was. It
I
seems
think he
like
might have
got-
got nominated though.
Okay.
But yeah, who's doing these things? Okay. Sorry, someone's texting me.
You're good.
I think the one that I literally just saw it. I think the one that I was not a fan of. No, I'm not gonna hold the stream up because I really can't remember what it was. Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my brain just.
You're good.
fried.
You're good. Well, with that said, then I'm gonna move on from here. That was the best year of movies 2008. If you enjoyed that segment, let me know because I want to do that every month. Like I said, I'm shooting for like the second Sunday of every month during this news stream, just so that it can change things up once a month and do something a little bit different. And I actually had fun with this and going through these movies from that year, and kind of telling you guys some of the ones that were influential to me and that kind of thing. What's up?
Lakeview Terrace with Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh,
have you ever seen that? That was
yeah.
good.
Is that the one where the fires are coming in at one point of it?
Yeah, the fires are coming in.
You got the neighbors the neighbors moved in. He's wanting them to move, and he is the cops. Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
That was fun. I only saw it once.
I forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
You brought that up. I'm like, oh yeah. So 2008 was filled with movies. I mean, that was a year with so many different variety of movies there that we talked about. So
a lot of it was big and adventurous and bombastic and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, hey, like I said, if you guys enjoyed this, let us know in the comments if you want me to keep doing this every month, and we'll keep going. Next month, hopefully we can get Ken back again because I think I'm going to go ahead and do 1994 because I know that's Ken's year. And looking through that list after he mentioned that, I started looking. I'm like, there's a lot of good movies that year. So I think that's the year we're going to go to next. I know I'm going to have to, for my uncle's sake, go to 1978 at some point. So we'll get around to some of these, and we'll just keep this series going.
Absolutely,
several months. So
I love the fact that you're bouncing around too. That's fun.
What do you mean? Oh, the years. Yeah. I don't want to just go through straight. I just want to like, okay, this was a good year. Let's do that year. This is another good year. And I want to look at comments too when people are telling me, like when he mentioned 1978, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll take a look at that, and get some ideas from the comments and stuff, and maybe we'll get to the year that you like the best eventually.
Apparently, there was a Lost Boys sequel that came out in 2008.
Oh, really? Yeah, I never saw that either.
Probably. I feel like it's one of those that we probably shouldn't see.
Maybe so. Maybe so.